when I was an air reporter, there's 2 airports here at the 433rd. So if I would have thought about it a little bit better, I would have moved from one squadron to the other just to give myself that broadening. But for sure, any types of I won't say special assignments, but any opportunities that you have. So Enlisted Development Education Board gives you those opportunities to get some different types of courses. Jumping into residence courses when you can, when your civilian life allows, as opposed to virtual. When I was young as a senior airman, I went to Fairchild to do the ALS, and I thought it was important for me to get out of Lackland to do that. And it gave me some time to spend with a crowd that I didn't know. So as an introvert, I find myself to be an introvert, trying to be engaged in this course with active duty folks was intimidating, but it was a great experience. And I don't say this very often, but from that experience, I was awarded the John Levitot, and I think it was because I put myself in an uncomfortable situation, and I embraced my environment. So they may not be the broadening that you were thinking about, but that's kind of how I've perceived it. Deployments for sure give you that experience. So there's different opportunities. I mean, one from a technical aspect, from going from one assignment to the other, if you can do that. But there's plenty that you can do from your current squadron. Education for sure. Like I said, those PME courses that are non-traditional, meaning non-ALS or not senior NCO or NCO academies. So they're out there, probably not so much available right now, but I think as the environment goes into virtual, I think those things become a little bit more manageable for us and our schedules. So that's how I'll answer that question. Hopefully it's in the range of the area you were thinking about.
Thanks, Chief. I'll add a little bit onto that. So historically, arts aren't able to, or they don't want to, not able to move around because of the USA jobs or whatever. Right now, we've got a lot of opportunities to where arts are converting to AGR positions, but there are also a lot of AGR positions opening up across the command for the first time ever. So really, I'll add on to what Chief Gonzalez said. Get comfortable being uncomfortable and continue pressing forward and looking for different opportunities. Okay. Sergeant Lang, the first sergeant over in medical, talk about struggles in getting to your position as a chief. Chief, raise your hand if you want the question, otherwise I'm going to tag you. Struggles getting to it. Chief McGarvey, you're on mute.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. So one of the struggles I had being a traditional reservist was trying to balance the requirements of PME with my civilian job. Had a very demanding job that required a lot of annual training. So trying to juggle that and finish a career out while doing PME, you know, submitting for the development boards and all that. It was very time consuming. Times it got very monotonous and frustrating.
Yeah. Okay. So you guys,
can I answer that?
Yes, please do.
Chief Garcia, medical over here at AMDS. So one of the things that I found that were useful was that having that, going back to several questions, having that communication with your supervisor, with your peers, ensuring that they knew what you had going on to help better assist you in your path. Not always is the path going to be a clear, clear one. You're going to have those challenges that are going to come forward, those opportunities to step out of your comfort zone, to take other opportunities, other positions, whether in your squadron or whether outside your squadron. I think those are things that we all look at when we were going through and coming up through the ranks, is having the communication, the support of your squadron, being able to step out of the comfort zone, doing the things that you need to do to be able to manage and be able to achieve the goals that you have. If you can do that and factor in your civilian life, your civilian family, because you also have your Air Force family, those are things that are going to help bridge those gaps to help you overcome those hurdles to get you to where you ultimately are wanting to get to.
Awesome. Thanks, Chief. So, hey, if you have not already, unless you're a panel member, if you will mute your mic and turn your video off, that'll help the feedback that you guys are hearing, at least that I'm hearing. Let's see. Brian's iPhone, not sure who that is. This is for Chief Flores. How do you prioritize your daily tasks, duties, so that you are the most productive throughout the day? He turns the command chief's ringer. When I call, he deletes me. That's how.
That's a daily function.
I know.
You know, we don't, I mean, we try to prioritize, but with the latest things that are going on right now, you know, you prioritize and you think you're going to come in and do the work on what you're going to prioritize with, and you got to be flexible for that day, because you're going to throw everything at you for that day, especially with the last 3 months. Nothing has been prioritized. Everything that's coming in or coming through your email or coming through the phone, whatever phone calls we're getting, that's going to be priority for the day. So yes, you do try to prioritize, and yes, you do try to make time for yourself, for your employees, but just know that you have to be flexible, and flexibility is the latest thing, because I never know what I'm going to walk through every day. Even last night, Chief Cullum, you can attest to this. We were calling you at 8 o'clock last night because we're like, hey, this is on our plate now, and now we got to deal with it. So it's we try to do it the best we can. And man, the team that I work with, the 3 squadrons that are here at the medical unit, man, that team, they're just an awesome team. Command Chief, you're just awesome, and just a great place to work at.
We do have some great teammates. Okay, Sergeant Lang, I guess this is for all chiefs, so we'll open it up. Talk about struggles in getting to your, we answered that one. Do we have shadow programs for aspiring chiefs? Who wants to? Chief Jimenez, I'm gonna throw you under the bus real quick, because so just so you know, for the whole team on here, we're bringing the 960th over into the PDC as we grow. They've put a lot of resources and help into getting the PDC where it's at, and we appreciate the partnership that we've built, and I appreciate you being on this. But I also know that your career path has not been a straight career path, so I'm going to pass that question to you, get an outside perspective. You're on mute, Chief.
Cyber, you would think I would know how to unmute. Spacebar wasn't working for me. But no, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the opportunity from the 960th to come and speak with you guys today. I'll say, as far as I guess the question of chief mentorship program, I have not been aware of a chief mentorship program, but I would hope every day is kind of a chief mentorship program for those that are aspiring to be chiefs. I know with my seniors and my master sergeants that are within my unit, my senior NCOs and even NCOs, you're trying always to show the good example, and a lot of times it's that grooming of those that you know need to replace you. So I know in my organization, my senior master sergeants, I expect a lot out of them, and I expect them to expect a lot of their folks underneath them, because when they get to chief and they're running an organization, and a lot of their folks might be strategic or day-to-day operating of the squadron, they're not going to have the opportunity to maybe get down to some of those tactical things they were before. So they need to be thinking of those things beforehand. I do think, as far as a cyber unit. So I did 18 years as RegAF, came over to the reserves just 3 years ago this month. And I had a lot of good mentors along the way of what it meant to be a supervisor or leader in a cyber unit. And I've had a lot of people mentoring me now on the reserve side. And I would be open if anybody ever wanted to come and just spend a day shadowing, the superintendent or a chief. I think that's a great idea as far as people that maybe are debating, do I retire or do I want to be a chief? And is that something I aspire to be? Go spend a day kind of going through their things. And some of these questions are great as far as how you spend your day, managing all the stresses that come in. Are you a maker? Are you a manager? Are you the one that's doing things? Or are you managing things? And how chiefs go about that, I think, are things that just shadowing one for a day is a great idea. I'm not aware of a program that we have, but I like the idea. It's really good.
Any of the 433rd chiefs wanna hit on that one? I can't tell if Chief Frost. There you go.
I'll add to that. I would echo that as well. I think daily it's we have mentorship opportunities that come up, and if you're being a good chief, you take those opportunities and you run with it. So I think that's kind of the mentor route I think we take here. So yeah, I think it's a daily practice, I would say. So that's just my perspective on it.
And any of the other 430 chiefs want to take a stab?
It's Chief Gonzalez. So I know we don't have a formal program that's labeled that way, but it is very interesting, and it'll be something I'll bring up tomorrow during the Chiefs group meeting to see if that's something we want to initiate. I agree with Chief Frost, right? It's something you naturally should do, but I think if we create a small program that doesn't have to be extravagant, it kind of puts light and helps us ensure that we're doing that, because it's very easy to come to UTA and get wrapped into all the activities and forget your airmen. So if we put it in our minds to do that mentorship program, I think it'll pay off a lot of dividends. So I'll be sure to bring it up tomorrow and put some discussion around it and see if we can formalize something.
Okay. I figured Chief Kilford or Chief Lopez would jump in here, because we do cross-pollinate with the Rising Six and the top three. You've usually got a chief in each one of those meetings. But I also, there's several chiefs, senior master sergeants that are on here that it has been offered by myself, and I know some of the other chiefs. If you want to shadow a chief for a day or 2 days or whatever, knock on our door, let us know. We will make it happen. But yeah, this will be a question that we'll take to the Chiefs group tomorrow. If you guys are looking for a formal type program, that is right up the Chiefs Council alley. Okay, moving on to the next question. With the changes, this is from Airman Henrich. I hope I pronounced that right, Henrich. With the changes happening in our Air Force culture, is there anything specific the Rising Six can do to help the transition? Are you finding any specific needs coming from the airmen in your units? We are getting back in the swing of things, and I would like some direction. Let's see. Changes happen in Air Force culture. What can the Rising Six do? Chief McGarvey. Well, wait a minute. Is there anybody else I haven't picked on yet? Chief Dramer, is your audio back up? Because I'd love to hear what you.
You hear me?
We can hear you. Talk to us, Chief.
So, you're talking about for the Rising Six?
With the changes happening in our Air Force culture, is there anything specific the Rising Six can do to help the transition? Are you finding any specific needs coming from the airmen in your units? As we get back in the swing of things, we would like some direction.
I think the only thing that I've been getting from my airmen are positives. Unfortunate it took COVID to bring this. The positives are the virtual training that we're pushing out now and availability to do that, being able to telework and those kind of things. Those are things that I think are positives for us, so that, you know, when we are in situations like this, or somebody really needs some training / some mentoring, whatever the case may be, that we can actually virtually do that and offer classes, or offer the videos of classes for refreshers as well. So those are the big things that I'm hearing from my airmen moving forward in that part of the culture that's changing in what we do day to day.
So, Airman Henrich, can you unmute and give us a little bit better idea of, are we talking COVID? Are we talking about the unrest? Are we talking about just getting back into the swing of things? Help us out here. Give me a better direction of who to answer.
Sure. I think, you know, just before all this happened, the Rising Six was kind of trying to redefine our place and trying to figure out how we could better serve and better reach out to people. And we've been, you know, basically totally asleep through this whole thing. And I think it's time for us to kind of get back out there. And kind of our whole thing was kind of getting people together and kind of reigniting the human aspect of growing together and learning together, and, you know, and that positive part of the mentorship program. And so now that things have just kind of changed, I'm just kind of wondering, is there a different way that we can, you know, be of service to our airmen? You know, where are our needs? I too have heard almost 98% of what I've been hearing has been totally positive, and which is fantastic. We're just trying to kind of figure out, like, where should we stand? How can we, you know, be on the same page with our leadership, you guys, in order to reach people that maybe aren't being reached, or serve needs that aren't being met. It's kind of a broad, really.
Yeah. Okay. So before I give you a point of contact to reach out to get on with our PDC chiefs, the panel, well, do you guys have anything to add to what Chief Dramer has?
I'll add something to that. I know right now for Rising Six, for the ranks, you know, right now we're using a lot of social media. So there's a lot of information that's being put out by the wing, not only the wing, but through AFRAC. So there's some organizations that have private Facebook groups where you kind of come together. Not every it's not mandatory, but you can invite others within the squadron or alumni, and it's a good way to share information within the squadron. I know we use GroupMe, so we have multiple groups in GroupMe that reach out to our upgrade trainees or newcomers, or just a different group just specified for different criteria. So if there's ways that Rising Six can do, I'm not sure if they have a GroupMe. I know Top 3 does. But if there's a way that someone can come together and just share thoughts, ideas, questions, that's a good way to reach out to others and get more information. And that way the Chiefs group and Top 3 can help you all out in that area as well.
Chief Gonzalez, you had your hand up, and then we'll go to Chief Dramer.
I did, but it goes in line with what Chief Lopez was saying, right? So something being innovative, I guess, and as I get a little bit older, I look to my kids, say, hey, I don't understand how to use this remote for my TV. And so even Zoom, I don't know what button to click. So I think some of the tech tools that are out there, those would be some of the things that maybe you bring to your leadership, exploring what's available, keeping in mind FOU and all the security measures and all that. But I would think that our younger generation is more in tune with availability and the use and how we can incorporate that into our environment now.
Chief Kramer?
You hear me still?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I was just I agree with what they were both just saying, and that's a big deal for me. I think this is a win-win with for their new young and up and coming airmen. That social media is a big deal, and the technology out there is huge and is a positive for all of us. And I agree that we need to start steering towards that for communication / just open forums, to have open forums about whatever. Obviously, you got to be careful, like the chief said, sensitive information. You don't want to be, sharing certain things out on unsecure lines. But at the same time, I think this is a really good deal for the up and coming airmen to get involved and offer back to maybe the Rising Six and other groups ideas and avenues on how to accomplish that. So that's all part of us obviously mentoring and leading and bringing them in the loop so that they can help us figure out how we can all communicate as a society, as a military, and move forward in a positive manner and actually be successful.
So I'll add on to that just real quick. So I've been trying to reach the officers of the Rising Six. One thing that I've learned since COVID-19 kicked off, most everybody on here at some point or another sees a group me message from me. That is how I'm communicating and pushing information out. They would really like to delete me off, but I don't let them because I ping them in all the different groups. But the Chiefs group does not have, that I am aware of, let me rephrase that I am aware of how to directly communicate with the Rising Six on the social media forefront. I mean, when I say social, I mean specific messages, information, and getting it to you. Ma'am, if you will shoot me an email, I'm going to give you Sergeant Caballero's point of contact information. He's been heading up most of the PDC, and we will get the Rising Six in the comms because quite honestly, the Rising Six makes up about 65–70% of our wing. So your voices definitely need to be heard. Okay, we've got several other questions, so I'm gonna push through. From Angelica. Yes.
Can I interrupt real quick?
Yes.
Do we have people waiting to get into the session? I got a text saying that there may be some people waiting, or
I don't have anybody in the wait room.
okay, sorry. Thank you.
No, that's okay. Was it Colonel Williams?
No.
Okay, I just let him back in. I think he got booted out a little bit earlier. Angelica Powell, good morning. Were you always career driven, or have you had instances in which you considered getting out but decided to stay? If so, what made you stay? Nobody specific. So Chief Castillejo's got his hand up. Roll with the chief.
So kind of like what I mentioned earlier, career driven versus getting out versus things like that. Just from my personal experience, I was somebody early on in my career, when I was back a staff going into tech. I remember having the opportunity to come and work out at the squadron. Back then, being a younger NCO, I remember looking at that as like, nah, I don't, the opportunity for order sounded nice and was, the pay and whatnot. Had a pretty good civilian job, but really what was deferring me away from that was back then the workload that we did at the AMDS and the amount of hours that they were putting in to do physicals on the 2 weekends a month back then, an A and a B UTA, was something that I didn't want to be part of, only because, not that I was a team player, just because the work in itself was just like, man, there has to be a better way to do it. There has to be a simplified process. Looking at that, and then talking with my peers, Chief Flores is an example that kind of helped me and guide in my career. We look at an opportunity and said, let's look at this and how we can do it better, not how we don't want to do it, how we don't want to step in and challenge ourselves, step out of our comfort zone, and look at those opportunities to where let's do this and make something better of it. We took that opportunity, both ourselves as the he as the senior NCO, me as just an NCO, and we kind of started changing the culture of what the perception was at the squadron, what the TRs did, what the ARTs did, what the weekday staff did, and had that opportunity to work it. Ultimately, that led me going from an MPA tour, being on orders, to taking the opportunity as an ART. Ran right into the same mindset again with, we're an ART, overworked, underpaid. How do we get better? How do we challenge ourselves? How do we look for those opportunities? Having to step out of our comfort zone. And for me, the opportunity was to leave the squadron. Was lining myself up, or at least working myself. Came in as a tech, worked myself to a master. The opportunity for me to make senior wasn't a possibility, only because my ART position didn't allow for it. But for me to challenge myself, and had crossroads at that point. Well, do I stay in the position that I'm in because I'm comfortable, or had those that were above me and communicated with me and knew what was going on in my life and said, challenged me to step out of my comfort zone, go to another squadron, pursue the opportunity for promotion and growth, and then be able to bring that back. And ultimately was able to take that, leave from the AMDS, go to another med group squadron, come back, and had the opportunity to be the senior ART at the AMDS, coming back to my home here, and now paying that forward and passing that information on to any airman, telling my story and how that can help them, those challenges and those things that came before me and my crossroads, and how it was growth for me. That's kind of my little bit of me. Didn't mean to take too much time, but I wanted to share that because it was very useful for me and helped pave my path.
Thanks, Chief. Chief Jimenez, I see your little hand up.
Yeah, I'd agree with a lot of those comments, and I think that's a lot of Chiefs' experiences. I think for me, I remember being a young staff sergeant, active duty. I was stationed in Hawaii. I loved it out there, and I was offered a nice, lucrative job that would allow me to maintain a lifestyle pretty decently. And Air Force at the time was letting people go, and I put in the paperwork to go ahead and get out. I was kind of drawn to that other side, and the moment I remember very emotionally, the moment I put that paperwork in, going to work one morning and just catching a glimpse of myself in the uniform in the mirror, and just loved it, and thought about the family I'd be leaving on the military side, and being a part of that, and pulled that paperwork right back. Didn't want to take that route anymore. And just thinking about all the great things about serving, being focused on that. I had a good supervisor when I was young. As far as being career focused, they always just told me, don't get caught up in the hype of the career side. Get focused on just doing the best that you can do, being focused on being the best you that you can be, and the career will take care of itself. Did I ever think I'd be a chief? No. Did I? And they told me that's not going to guarantee you promotion all the time. Sometimes you might miss a box, but try to pay attention to the boxes that you have to meet, but just try to always be making yourself better. And the Air Force tends to reward those folks. Not all the time do they get it right. And not always will those people promote for different circumstances. But I found that if you just go to work every day, fall in love with what you do, and be passionate about it, be passionate about your people, that will tend to, the promotion and the career will take care of itself. And in the end, you'll be proud of the career that you had. And I think that's where a lot of people should be focusing. And I try to, go over that a lot of times when I'm mentoring some of my airmen that are, hey, how do you make chief? Or I got to make senior, or else my career is a wash. That's not true. Do the very best that you can at the rank that you're at, and you'll many times be rewarded with another rank. So.
Thanks, Chief. Okay, so we got another question, and I think this kind of plays into that one as well, from Senior Airman Parks. While examining future endeavors and career advancement, what's an appropriate amount of time to give to one squadron before transferring to another? Any chiefs on here want to answer that? Go ahead, Chief Kilford.
Yeah, I think on that question, there's no, you know, right amount of time to stay at a squadron before you go to your next duty station or your next assignment. Some folks stay in the same squadron for 15, 20 years, and it pays off quite well for them. And some folks bounce around, and some units will view it differently, because if you bounce around too often, sometimes it looks like you're not able to stay in one location, and there may be reasons, negative. It could create the perception that negative reasons were why you're bouncing around from unit to unit. But on the other hand, it could also create a lot of positive opportunities where you're learning different aspects of the Air Force and broadening your scope of what different parts of the Air Force do, and learning from good leaders and bad leaders of different organizations. So that's all I got on that.
I want to put a little bit of perspective in there as well. Besides that was me calling you Chief Kilford. I'm used to being hung up on, but I'm teasing. Hey, so here, going back to my opening comments about getting comfortable being uncomfortable, I think that's your indicator. When you start getting too comfortable in what you are doing, whether that means moving across the hall, down the street, or across the country, that's when you know it's time to move, whether it's from one squadron to another. I'll also tell you that you need that breadth of experience and that broadening, because 5 years from now, the enlisted force structure is not going to look the way it does right now, and the ability to move up is going to be more difficult, more challenging, more competitive. So you kind of need to look around at your peers, and if they're ahead of you and getting that breadth, quality breadth, not just putting it on a resume of I've worked in 5 different squadrons, but quality of breadth, that's what you're competing against. So I hope that answered between the two of us. Anybody else got anything to add to that?
The only piece of advice I'd add to that is that if you find yourself moving a lot, just make sure you leave the place better than you found it. I think that's the best thing you can do.
100% agree. Yeah. Okay.
I'd add that, show progression in those moves. It's something across your record that if you were a supervisor one area, then you became a flight chief or something else. Did you become an instructor and then an evaluator? That progression through your career, not bouncing from place to place, just position to position. Sometimes that's going to happen to get, different perspectives, but exactly with the leave the place better than how you made or how it was when you got there is I'm going to look to see what you did at each location, not just that you were at a location.
For sure. Okay, so that actually, a lot of these are leading right into the others. This is from Sergeant Reyes. Without the use of promotion line numbers, how can we fairly disperse PME seats? Further, what is the formula used to vet those individuals who receive a seat over other promotion candidates? Sergeant Reyes, can you unmute and talk to us? Explain what you mean by that, because I can take a couple different.
Okay, so yes, Chief. So, we're asked to be flexible. I get the whole process to being considered for being put in a seat, and how we have to maybe compete is not a good word, or maybe it is, with active duty for the seats in NTO Academy, Senior NCO Academy. And then, of course, you have the Chiefs course, which is a highly sought out course. So what I mean is, if you have a person who is eligible much later than a person who is already eligible, how, without the line number, how do we, rack and stack or put them in order, on the active duty side? you'll be number 136 out of 137, and you know when that's going to happen for you. Versus here in 4th Air Force, where you'd have a finite number of seats, and then it's like, hurry up and good on you if you have a UTM, and if you don't, you're at the mercy of who knows how to do it best. And then if it's a TR, yikes, right? So that's kind of where I'm going with, you know, with some kind of order. And in the future, are we looking at maybe going in that direction?
Okay, so we got 2 MSG chiefs in here. I have an answer for it, but I wanna let Chief McGarvey chime in first, and Chief Gonzalez if he wants to after. Chief McGarvey, what can you?
Yes, ma'am.
Under you.
So the package would, you know, start at the unit, and it's going to take your unit to advocate for you. And if you don't have a UTM, then, you know, your CEM or your superintendent should be advocating for your position at the group level. You know, I don't know how you would compare somebody from 2 different units who submit packages at 2 different times. I don't believe that somebody who submitted a package, although they're not eligible for promotion, if they submitted it like 3 months before somebody who was eligible, you know, to me, there shouldn't be a leapfrog unless there's some kind of situation, you know, that the unit can further expound upon. But, you know, all packages leave the FSS, and, you know, they go to Chief Colum, and, you know, we let the group chiefs and the command chief rack and stack accordingly. So if there is a specific need from a specific unit on a specific package, you know, then that needs to be communicated. Because if we don't know, we don't know.
So we're talking about a couple different things though. For this chief orientation course, and those, yes, they come up to me. The only other PME that comes up to me is ALS, and I interview all of the ALS, and I try to push those out. You know, each UTA interview and push back. We've had some issues with getting those packages. But I'll tell you, from an, you know, you compare to why does active duty get more seats than we do? That's because we have distant learning, and we have the ability to get the training at different avenues, whereas active duty doesn't. If you don't have a UTM, that is definitely and so as the up and coming chief select Sergeant Reyes, that's a change that when you come in, streamline in your squadron specifically. But I'm also going to throw this out there as far as NCO, Senior NCO Academy. Have your folks get the packages ready, because this last month, the command has actually sent, I want to say, in upwards of almost 50 people on short notice. They have extinguished the wait list, according to what Chief Villa told me. So we've got to grasp those windows of opportunity when we can. But I'd like to hear a little bit more about that. But I don't think we're competing with each other so much for the academy seats as we are just trying to get through the wait list that the command has as a total. So because to my knowledge, NCO Academy, Senior NCO Academy is first come, first serve, and it's on the wait list. So Chief Gonzalez, do you have something to add onto that?
Yeah, totally. So totally get where the question is coming from. I've got a secret I'll tell you at the end to help you beat that. But from a process perspective, last night Colonel Williams and I spent time discussing a scenario that came up that affected or is affecting 2 or 3 senior master sergeants within the MSG, all different squadrons. And it kind of shed light as to, and I talked to Chief McGarvey as well yesterday, and to try to get some background and get an understanding of, you know, how the process works. Now, obviously, it's not perfect. In the scenario that we've run into, I don't know how often it happens. Maybe this is the first time, or maybe it's a handful of times. but it was enough to warrant a request for us to do kind of not a deep dive, but a review of the process, and is there a way to improve it? And that would be for as many PME courses as possible. The challenge that I was given by Colonel Williams is, once we collect our intel, is then go to AFRC and see what processes they can change, because their process doesn't do any of the vetting the question was asking. So short answer is, between the July or August UTA, I'm going to get a small group to do some intel finding and some possible solutions, and then see if we have enough to go to AFRC and say, hey, within the scope of your courses, are there opportunities for us to change the process? I think with the environment, the virtual environment, then we gain a lot of traction to be able to do that. So that's will be underway. I'll say July or August, like I mentioned, and I owe it to a couple of the commanders to get some feedback to that. But here's the secret, so don't make sure nobody hears me. The secret is, if you're a senior master sergeant looking to become a chief, get on the KPL. Because if you get on the KPL, even before you're eligible for promotion, you're allowed to go to that course as a senior master sergeant and get that out of the way. It may not help some of the current senior master sergeants, but so you master sergeants or you seniors that are not eligible yet, that's the secret. Get yourself on the KPL, get to that course, and then now you've gotten one of the big rocks out of the way. And I know some of you are saying, well, I can't go to the KPL because there's not going to be one this year. Okay, I get it this time, but for the next round, get yourself prepared and get yourself on the KPL. Now, if you're already on it and you're a senior, then get to that course.
Okay, let me clarify a couple things. The KPL boards are still meeting. It's the EDEB that is not.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah, and so for our seniors, that the class chief is referring to is the class he is referring to that seniors can go to is the chief leadership course. That's a 28-day course that seniors on KPL can go to. But this year was the beginning of the chief leadership course, supplementing the chief orientation course that is mandatory. So this is the first year that some of our CLC seniors were able to put pin on chief before they got the orientation course because they took the CLC. I don't know if I just muddied the waters or cleared the waters, but there are two different courses: CLC 28-day course. Seniors that are on KPL are authorized to go to that chief orientation course 1 week, mandatory prior to pinning on chief, unless you have the CLC. Hopefully that cleared up that a little bit. But yes, the KPL does help immensely, and you have to do an EDP before you can even be considered for the KPL. So I'm going to throw out one more question, and then we're going to wrap it up because I know everybody's got a busy UTA. Okay, Colonel Patel just asked, what was the question the chiefs are talking about right now? Again, that we were talking about PME seats being fairly dispersed, whether it's PME or the orientation course. And there was one more in there from Sergeant Lang. What is your favorite leadership book author? Who are some of our readers in here? Somebody talk to me.
Oh, the last book I read that was really good. I read about a month and a half, 2 months ago, was Call Sign Chaos by General Mattis. It's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Really good.
I gotta say that's my favorite as well, for sure.
Yeah.
Anybody else got one? Okay, so we are right at the hour point, and ironically, we are also at the end of everybody's question, except for one more gap in technology, as mentioned earlier. What are our ideas on bridging that gap with technology? If you're talking about platforms, Sergeant Lang, is that what you're talking about? Which platforms, closing the gaps? Expand on your question, please. Sergeant Lang, are you on?
Yes, ma'am. That's what I'm referring to.
Okay, do you mean as in what platform? Like, are we going to use Zoom, Gov, CVR Teams?
That, you know what Chief Joe G was talking about earlier of the remote control and kind of how to relate more maybe to the younger generation as far as he discussed that earlier. The platform would be good. That would be one element of that.
Okay, so I can tell you what I know. I can tell you that I am way more tech savvy today than I was on 1 March before COVID-19 hit. We're using all different platforms. Some squadrons have gotten the niche of CVR Teams, where you can talk FOUO and PII, whereas Zoom, you cannot. There are cons to that. The biggest two cons to go into CVR Teams across the board, which a lot of people like, is getting our members that can't get into their .mil, getting them the invite email that they have to create an account. There's workarounds with that, but the reason there's not been a ton of energy put into that is because right now that CVR Teams license is due to expire on the 15th of September, and we don't know if the government is going to renew it. And I might be wrong. Chief Jimenez, you're coming out of cyber. Do you have any of the comm info on that besides Zoom isn't a good place to put any unsecure information?
Yeah, I would say in all forums, even in Teams, we need to be careful. There's a lot of open source intel out there of different nation states and different folks trying to be able to get into some of these calls. Zoom, you can easily register for a number and anybody can call in and all it shows is a number. So always need to be verifying who's in your meetings. I know in our morning staff meetings that we do via Teams, we always do a roll call on the right side to make sure that everybody's in there. Just be very careful of what you're actually posting, you know, recall rosters and any kind of information out there. These platforms they make it easy to access information, which is a great thing right now, but it's also a double-edged sword. So just got to be careful. Don't shy away from using DoD Safe. If you got to send emails to folks, it's a few extra steps, but it's worth securing. Years ago, I can remember there's a bunch of stuff on, you know, web servers at Maxwell and PII going everywhere for folks. You don't want to have to manage one of those incidents. So just make sure that we're keeping PII secure, and the normal things we would do at work, we just got to be extra sensitive to. I guess is all I would add.
Couple comments in the chat. John Maxwell books are always good leadership books. Concur. Too many books to list. Simon Sinek is a good art author. So if you're looking for some more information to read. Hey folks, we're a little bit over the hour time frame. Again, I just want to give a quick thank you to everybody that's on here, especially the chiefs. You got an array of backgrounds from FSS to flyers to enlisted flying to group soups. Next UTA, we plan on having the first sergeants panel. So if you'll pass that around to your airmen and get them on. If you really want to throw a challenge into the day, we have an 06 panel at 1400. The Zoom information, login information is on the Air Force Connect app under professional development events. It'll be good to hear from our senior leaders. They've got a lot of really good information to pass along, but thank you again. If you, I'm gonna stay logged on for a few minutes. If this was beneficial, I would ask that you put some comments in the chat box. If you wanna see something different, put your comments in there as well. We're gonna capture it. And as we go forward, you're gonna start seeing some more of this type of activity. So with saying that, if anybody, last comments, let's go around from the panel. Chief Guilford, you good? I see it's happened. Okay. Hey, thanks everybody. Enjoy your UTA. Please be safe, stay healthy, and stay ready. Bye.